Welcome to the Capitol News. I'm your host, Alex Karitis. Today is May 3rd, 2019. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope everyone out there is doing well today. A couple stories we're going to touch on today, and this might be a shorter podcast today. It is Friday. Let you guys enjoy your weekend. But sometimes when I think it's going to be shorter, I go on a rant and it ends up being longer. So we'll see what happens. But there's only a couple things I want to discuss today. I want to have a follow-up discussion in regards to Attorney General Bill Barr in his no-show appearance before the House Judiciary Committee. And then I also want to have a discussion that relates to economics. This time it deals with the unemployment report that came out today. And if you want a further, deeper discussion, we definitely focus on that in today's podcast regarding economics. But I do want to talk about it here as well, because I do know some listeners only listen to the geopolitical report. Others just listen to the economics. But this is, to me, it's important news because this just goes par for the course. More shenanigans, a bigger facade, smoke and mirrors. Something is truly amiss, and some sort of game is being played, and I don't like it. But first, let's focus on Attorney General Bill Barr and his upcoming feud with House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jerry Nadler. Okay, he gave Attorney General Bill Barr until Monday morning to give lawmakers access to the full, unredacted version of U.S. Special Counsel Robert Mueller's report on his Russia probe. Nadler informed Barr of the 9 a.m. Monday deadline in a letter today after the Attorney General failed to show up at a House of Representatives Judiciary Committee hearing that was scheduled for yesterday. We had that discussion. In refusing to comply with congressional oversight requests, the department has repeatedly asserted that Congress's requests do not serve legitimate purposes, Nadler said in the letter. Of course they don't. Not in this era. This is a three-ring circus. They're not getting to the truth. This is all political grandstanding. He continues, this is not the department's judgment to make. Congress's constitutional oversight and legislative interest in investigating misconduct by the president and his associates cannot be disputed, Nadler says. Barr's refusal to appear before House Judiciary Committee on Thursday drew an angry rebuke from Democratic lawmakers, with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi accusing the Attorney General of lying to Congress and adding, that's a crime. That's a crime to lie to Congress. Well, Nancy, then I guess you got to lock up James Clapper and John Brennan and a whole host of other people of the Obama administration who walked up to Capitol Hill and lied to Congress. Let's see if she does that. I doubt it. The House panel met anyway on Thursday. We had that with the Kentucky Fried Chicken moment and all that. And now if, Nadler says, he may move to hold Attorney General Bill Barr in contempt of Congress over his refusal to comply with the subpoena for the full report. All right, he's going to hold him in contempt, potentially. What's that mean? What's he going to do? You remember former Attorney General during the Obama administration, Eric Holder. He was held in contempt of Congress. What happened to him? They lock him up, throw away the key? No, he's still strolling the streets. He's walking around just fine and dandy. I mean, this is just a political threat. I mean, is it a good thing? No, it's not a good thing. It wasn't good when it happened to Attorney General Eric Holder, but there was good reason for that. I mean, that guy was involved in Fast and Furious. Of course, that was a scandal during the Obama administration. Nobody talks about it. And of course, Joe Biden's out there talking about this is a stark contrast, the Obama administration compared to the Trump administration. There were no scandals at all here during the Obama administration. Not a single one for 8 years. Just didn't exist. No, not here. Just couldn't happen. Yeah, Fast and Furious, a whole host of other things. Benghazi. I mean, the list goes on. We went over that when we talked about crazy Joe Biden getting in to the 2020 presidential race. All right, so check out that podcast if you want to go through that list. But here you have it. Again, a three-ring circus, this time led by Jerry Nadler, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, who's upset that Attorney General Bill Barr didn't show up. Again, he didn't show up because the Attorney General just wanted to be questioned by members of Congress, not members of Congress and their staff, just members of Congress. That's the job of Congress. They're the ones who should be asking the questions. If they need help formulating questions, okay, that's fine. That's why you have a staff. Put the questions together, have a conversation before the testimony with your staff so you're on top of your game too, or Congress, maybe you can actually read a report or two yourself. I mean, what are you getting paid for? Educate yourself. And then you go out and then you ask Bill Barr the question, or Bob Mueller, or the president, or whoever's up there testifying. Makes no difference. Prepare yourself. If you don't want to do the time, then just don't do it. Don't go. Don't show up. Say, well, I'm not feeling well. This is a non-event for me. I'm just going to pass the buck. I'm not going to show up. Just do that. So I don't blame Bill Barr because he got a shellacking, if you will, from the Democrats when he was on there with the Senate the day before on Wednesday. So what's going on? Do you blame the guy? He doesn't want to be He doesn't want to be a prop in a three-ring circus. And he's finally out there. He's just the guy that said, well, I'm done. I'm not doing it. So I applaud him for doing this. Now, if there was going to be some serious questions from these members of Congress regarding the Mueller investigation, maybe you'd say, okay, well, you know what? All right, Bill Barr, you should get up there and answer a question. I honestly think Bill Barr will go and testify if he simply asks questions from members of Congress. He doesn't want to take questions from staff members, which to me is reasonable. Their job is to support those congressmen, which is fine. That's what they're there for. They have a staff. Good, they should. But when it comes to asking questions, leave it to the members of Congress. That's their job. Let them do it. If he goes up there and testifies, it's going to be another three-ring circus. It's going to be another show. It's going to be another despicable disgrace of our politics in 2019. I mean, I really don't know where I am. And I'm not saying that because I'm on hallucinogens or anything like that. I just don't know where I am. I cannot believe that in 2019, this is where we are. Not just as Americans, but as human beings. This is what we're doing. That goofy idiot yesterday eating Kentucky Fried Chicken at the hearing because he was making a joke of Attorney General Bill Barr, calling him a chicken, basically. That's what it was. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. We have no collusion. We have no conspiracy. The only reason we have a lot of this information coming out regards to Volume 2 of the Mueller report is because the president and the White House did not assert executive privilege. So a lot of this information comes out. And so you're going to have politicians jump all over it. They don't even want to talk about Russia anymore. We heard nothing but Russia for the past 3 years. Now there's nothing there. No, we don't care about that. Now, obstruction of justice. There was no obstruction of justice. That was the decision of Attorney General Bill Barr. Now that's what they're hanging their head on, the Democrats are. But you know what I'm saying? You have experts, you have lawyers. This is what they do. They argue one side to the other. Well, it looks like there's enough evidence where you could have moved forward. Okay, well, you're not the Attorney General. You're also not Bob Mueller. If Bob Mueller thought there was enough evidence to indict the president on charges of obstruction of justice, then he could have done so. He didn't do so. He punted. He said, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and Attorney General Bill Barr, you make that decision. And they did. They made the decision not to indict the president. Even in his own words, the Attorney General's own words, he did not exonerate the President of the United States. He just said there's not enough evidence here to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt. I thought that's how our judicial system worked. That's what this state had to do, prove somebody's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And that people are innocent until proven guilty. Now, the Democrats couldn't care less. They want to go out there and call Donald Trump a dictator, a Nazi, somebody who is suppressing people's rights. They want to convict everybody. They don't want to give anybody a trial. You're guilty because we don't like you. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is the world in which we live. This is one of the main reasons I believe Donald Trump is going to simply stroll right back into the White House in 2020. He's going to do it, despite a whole bunch of issues I have with him on the economy and exaggerations and hyperbole and lying, a whole host of issues I have with him. Definitely check out today's economic podcast because I go after him big time on today because this unemployment report and a whole host of things that have been coming out from this White House, the president himself, his economic team. Today, even the vice president now is tooting his horn about lowering interest rates. I mean, this is beyond the pale. It truly is. This is a fraud. This is a crime. This is a game that is being played that does not need to be played because it affects so many people negatively. You got to pay attention. You have to understand what's going on here. But now we have here, getting back to Jerry Nadler and company, we have Jerry Nadler wanting to perhaps hold the Attorney General in contempt if he doesn't show up and provide the fully unredacted report. You know, it was interesting testimony on Wednesday because Attorney General Bill Barr was asked the question how much of the report was given. It was like 99.9%. That's how much, so there's just a tiny bit that remains redacted. So I don't know what they're complaining about. Again, this is just more political grandstanding, something to do, something out there. This is a little bit of blood in the water, a little bit of red meat to the lunatics out there, the Socialist Party, some members of the Democrat Party there. It's just more noise. That's all it is. It's red meat for the mainstream media to pick up on and so they can have something to talk about during the 24/7 news cycle, something that'll carry over, I'm sure, to this weekend in the Sunday morning news programs. That's going to be the talk of the town. Bet your bottom dollar on it. And then it'll be a lot of the news come next week. But hopefully next week we have the report come out regarding Jim Comey, and then hopefully that starts to shut up some of these Democrats and all these lunatics out there who are saying, look, we need the full report. You have the full report. You have the full report. Another very interesting thing, I don't know if a lot of you caught this either, but this was brought up by Senator Ted Cruz during the testimony. This was part of his Q&A session and his statement in regards to the drama that popped up earlier in the week where we found out that Bob Mueller had sent a letter to the Attorney General pretty much saying, I don't think you gave in your summary the entire report justice. You left some things out of context. You just didn't provide a big enough picture. Okay, that's his opinion. He could say that's what his opinion was. And, of course, Attorney General answered that question and basically said, I don't have a problem with that, but Bob Mueller, he didn't have to write me a letter. He could have picked up the phone and said something, but okay, he sent a letter, and that's what he did. But nevertheless, the Attorney General knew perfectly well that he was going to be releasing the report to the public and to Congress. Yes, some of it was going to be redacted, but not in its entirety. A lot of it has been disclosed. You can go find it. It's online. Easy to come up by. Easy to read. All right? So what did Senator Ted Cruz say? Which I thought was a good point. Very valid. Because the Democrats were all upset. Obviously, this is, I think it's fake. This is fake upset. But nevertheless, they like to act. So they get up there and they say, oh, well, Bob Mueller, this outstanding investigator and prosecutor, he had an issue with the Attorney General in his summary. And he was so upset by it that he sent him a letter. And what was contained within that letter was the fact that Bob Mueller said, well, you should have released part of our summary, which would have been, I think, about 19 pages. Bill Barr's summary was 4 pages. Bob Mueller's was 19. So Senator Ted Cruz made the point, these are fake tears and fake outrage coming from the Democrats. Why? Because 3 weeks following the Attorney General's 4-page summary, he released a 400-page report from the special prosecutor. And guess what, folks? Contained within that 400 pages is the 19 pages that Bob Mueller said Attorney General Bill Barr should have released 3 weeks earlier. That's the argument. That's it. That's all they're complaining about, that it was timing. Well, he should have done this 3 weeks earlier. Are you scratching your head? Are you saying that's it? Because that is it. That's the remaining brain cell that exists within, a half dozen Democrat senators on the Judiciary Committee. That's all they could come up with. That's the best they could do. We're going to complain about this, but, wait a minute. Here it is. It's all right here. Everybody can read it, and it's unredacted. You can't make this crap up. This is starting to become a phrase that I don't like saying. Can't make it up. But this is where we are. This is why I'm saying I don't know where I am, because this is a joke. The idiot eating Kentucky Fried Chicken. This is what we're doing. Put him in charge. Let him be the colonel. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. Finger licking good. Now, moving on to the unemployment report, because I do want to have a brief discussion on this. Again, if you're interested in a further, deeper discussion, check out our episode today on that, because that's pretty much what we entirely focus on the economic podcast today. Now, we have headline news telling us that the unemployment rate is now at a 49-year low. It's at 3.6%, and everything is fine and dandy. So much so that the vice president was out on the news today saying, no surprise, the Federal Reserve can cut interest rates. Why? Because everything is so fantastic, and there's no inflation. There's no inflation that exists anywhere in this country. It just doesn't exist. Is that an insult to you? You feel like you're being lied to? Have your costs gone down? Have they stayed stagnant? Or have they gone up? I mean, don't just listen to these people and walk around and shake your head, nod your head, yes, yes, yes. I mean, ask a question. Does it make sense? Is it true? Is that what I am personally experiencing? Is that what my neighbors are personally experiencing? Is that what friends and family around the country, is that what they're personally experiencing? Or are their costs going up? Are they struggling? Or some of their children who are in college, can they afford to pay those loans back? Have they graduated? Do they have a full-time job? And if they do have a full-time job, is it a good paying job? And if they do have a full-time job, is it in the field of which they studied? These are simple yet important questions to ask, because when we have our dear and beloved leaders come out and tell us everything's fine and dandy, yet on the other hand, telling the Federal Reserve, our central bank, that they have to embark on measures that are usually reserved for recessions or economic slowdowns or financial crises, I mean, which one is it? Is it an economic miracle where everything's fine? Or do we have a problem and we actually have to implement emergency measures? Because you can't have it both ways. You just simply cannot. So, the other thing that is very, very fishy with the unemployment report is that you have 490,000 people who have left the workforce. They've left the workforce. Employed and unemployed people both. They're gone. They're out of the workforce. The government's not counting them. Maybe this is people who are retiring. Again, this goes to our discussion on demographics. This is why we talk about the national debt so often here. This is why we talk about Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. This is the unfunded liabilities. This is the demographic cliff that cannot be unwound. The horse has left the barn. You're not getting him back in. This is it. You get older. This isn't money printing. You can't just increase the amount of money on a computer screen and say, whoop, there it is. Can't do it like that. You're 60, next year you're 61, you're 62, blah, 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 blah. You can't rewind the clock and go back. It just doesn't work that way. So we're going to start facing this head on. Are we going to do it with strong leadership? Well, from what we see now, no, we're not. There isn't even a discussion of these issues. There isn't a question of the national debt, the deficits, Medicare, Social Security. Not at all. Everything's fine and dandy. The president says if he's ever asked about it, and he was once in recollection, and it wasn't that long ago, but, we'll just grow our way out of it. Same thing that Larry Kudlow, his economic advisor, says. Oh, yeah, no, don't worry about it. We're just going to grow our way out of it because everything's fine. Makes no sense in conjunction with everything else that is said. You have the employment labor participation rate that is down to 7-month lows. So you cannot have it both ways. You cannot have an unemployment headline figure of 3.6, which is going down, a 49-year low, at the same time having labor force participation rate going down as well. You want more people working. Labor force participation rate going down means less people are working. Get the picture? Not making sense. But you have to understand something. When you have unemployment figures, what is released to the public and what most people hear, and that's all they pay attention to, is the headline number, which is referred to as U3. If you want a more encompassing picture of unemployment, you look at U6. So you have U3 as headline and you have U6, which is more encompassing. This takes into consideration people who are working part-time but want to work full-time but can't because they simply cannot find a full-time job. And it also counts discouraged workers. However, this only counts those individuals if they remain in that situation for 1 year or less. Once you become a discouraged worker for over 1 year, you are no longer counted as unemployed. You're not working, but you're no longer counted as unemployed. The government just says, well, this person ceases to exist as far as government statistics are concerned. Now, if you want to go out there and look at some other economists, shadowstats.com, again, an interesting website, take a look at it. This guy, this economist, is out there and he calculates government statistics the way they used to be calculated. Before, there was a whole bunch of, I'm just going to call it fraud going on, because that's what it is. I mean, it's deception. That's what it is, and it's done on purpose. If you're deceiving somebody on purpose, that's fraud. That's what the government's doing, because that's what the government wants the numbers to look better. But shadowstats.com, check it out. He goes out there and he calculates a whole bunch of macroeconomic numbers, inflation, money supply, GDP, unemployment figures. And if you calculate unemployment the way that it used to be calculated, so you would have, in his case, U6 plus all of those individuals who have been discouraged for longer than a year, his unemployment rate is 21%. That's basically Depression-era level unemployment rate. And that's where it's been, folks, for the past decade. Again, shadowstats.com, check it out. So even if you don't believe this guy, and you say, well, maybe he has, some sort of political animus towards the government or something, this, that, or the other, he's biased, okay, knock him down 50%. Say it's 12%. Say he's inflating numbers just for the sake of argument. 12%. I mean, that's well above 3.6, isn't it? I mean, there's a bigger problem in this country than what we're led to believe. Now, even if you look at U6, which is what the government puts out, this is what they even declare, that's at 7.3%. So you have 3.6 on the U3 headline, which is what everybody hears, and that's why Wall Street went bonanza today and went to the upside, although we have, again, a deeper discussion on the economic podcast. Check that out. But you have Wall Street going bonanza, over 3.6%. But if you look at U6, it's 7.3. That's a broader, more encompassing picture. We talk here all the time about the economic puzzle and how you want as many pieces as possible to put together so you have a vivid picture in your face as to what is being said and what is being done and where we are headed. What do you think makes more sense? Having the U3 figure at 3.6, or do you think having the fuller number, U6? What makes more sense? Well, if you're the government, it makes more sense to tell the useless idiots walking around this country, oh yeah, everything's great. 49-year low, 3.6, man, that's it. Get back to it. Don't have to pay attention. Everything's fine. Stock market takes off like a rocket. Will that continue Monday? It's going to be very interesting to see. But I'm going to be here, and I'm going to tell you what happens. Enjoy your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having you as always. Please like, share, subscribe, get the word out. Leave your comments. We would love to hear from you. This is the Capital News. I am Alex Koritis. Godspeed.